Journalism is only part of Kathy Lee. I happen to know this incredible woman. I know what she contributes to the community. She's a new mom, and she has brought so much kindness and a humongous amount of different perspectives into the work that she does. And when she's not working, she's emceeing, which I guess is still work, right, Kathy? I could go on because she's spectacular, but I think you'd rather hear her speak than me. So could we please give a warm round of applause to our keynote speaker, Kathy Lee.
Thank you so much, Leela. I love you. I love you. I love every single woman in this room. How are the resilient women in this room doing today? Can I get some more energy? How are we doing today? Amazing, amazing. Thank you for that introduction, Leela. I really appreciate it. And I am so honored to be here today to share some of my wisdom to all of you amazing people in this room, men included as well. I see a few of you as well. I'm not leaving you out, I promise. Who here has ever taken the time to really reflect on how you've been able to overcome the hardest times in your life? I'm talking a deep dive. I'm talking about thinking about what emotions you were going through during the challenging times, thinking about the pain, thinking about how you were able to lift yourself out of that dark time. Okay? I've been doing this a lot lately. I've been thinking about my own adversities, and I've been thinking about how I was able to get through them. And I've learned a lot about myself. Not just that I realize I'm a strong woman, but what makes me strong and how I am strong. I've been thinking about resilience. How do resilient people overcome the challenges in their lives? How are they able to do it? Because we know resilient people are not born with resilience. I wish that were the case. It would make life a lot easier. I know that resilient people don't go through life without suffering. Of course they do, and they have their bad days. So how do resilient people overcome adversities? And I think that this quote by a Harvard psychologist hit the nail on the head for me. Resilient people are deliberate in their response to painful experiences, okay? They are deliberate in their response to painful experiences. So what does that mean? It means that the intention is there to pull themselves, lift themselves out of a challenging time. It doesn't mean they have it all together or they have a step-by-step process, because often that's not the case. Often it's really messy. We're just figuring it out as we go. But the key word here is it is deliberate. There is intention to step forward in that direction that you need to go to get past the challenging time. So what does resilience look like? I'd love it if a volunteer can come on the stage really quick to help me with a very quick demonstration, preferably someone who is really shy and has never done this before and would rather do something else. I want to pull you out of your shell. Who would that be? Quick, 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 quick. Okay, come on up, come on up. Yeah. Round of applause for the really shy individual who doesn't want to come on stage with me. Thank you. Oh, I love it. I love that she pushed you. That's amazing. What's your name?
Melody.
Melody. And Melody, what do you do?
I'm an accountant.
She's an accountant. Round of applause for Melody. She's so brave. She's up here with me. Okay, here's what I want you to do. You're going to help me with this. Take this elastic band. And you're going to stay right there, and I'm going to pull it. We're going to try to pull it as far as we possibly can. And don't worry, if it snaps, we'll both get hurt. So I'm in this with you. Okay. So I thought this is what resilience symbolizes, okay? This elastic band. It's really flexible. And we're putting so much pressure on it by stretching it as far as we can. See all that pressure? And it doesn't snap. And that pressure is symbolic of the obstacles, the adversities, the challenges in your life. So then I thought, how do we be more like this elastic band so that we can navigate life with the challenges, the adversities, all that shit that happens in life that's guaranteed to happen in life because that's just life. How do we do that without snapping? That's all. I told you it was easy. Thank you very much. How do we be more like this elastic band? I'd like to share with you what I think it means to be resilient based on some of the lessons that I've learned during the most challenging times in my life. And I'm not reinventing the wheel here. This is just what really helped me. So to be resilient means to have resilient role models in your life. Think about who those people are. Your resilient role models are people who embody resilience. These are people who have overcome adversity and they've been able to come out the other side, and they are the ones that inspire you and they help you when times get tough. Think of who those resilient role models are for you. For me, they're these two people. This is my mom and this is my dad, and this is on my wedding day. And you can see I'm trying really hard not to ugly cry here. I practiced that beautiful cry. And it didn't turn out that way. But this photo means so much to me because I know what it took for my parents to get us to this moment in time. I know the suffering that they had gone through to get us to that moment in time. Both my parents were refugees from Vietnam. Both of them escaped a war. My dad was in the Air Force, and after the war ended, he was captured as a prisoner for 18 months in a jungle. And he suffered inhumane torture for 18 months. Still to this day, he won't tell us exactly what he went through. But some of that suffering, none of us will ever have to go through, thankfully, in life. But he managed to get out of that camp, and he left the country. For those who weren't captured and were able to escape, they tried to right away. That was my mom. My mom was only 19 years old when she left the country. What were you guys doing at 19 years old? Okay, think about that for a second. She was 19. She left in a rickety old boat, dangerous, packed with other desperate people. She didn't know if she was going to survive another day or die 10 seconds later. Like that line between life or death is what my parents had to straddle for a very long time. She nearly drowned. She starved. And she was robbed by pirates while on the water. What little she had nothing. Miraculously, she made it to Kuala Lumpur, and she stayed in a refugee camp there until she was sponsored to Canada. Both my parents came here, they met here, they had nothing. And not only did they have nothing, they had PTSD from all the trauma that they went through. They had to adjust to the new country. They had to learn another language. My mom said she cried every day for months. Their families were broken. They literally, it wasn't even that they started from zero, they started below that. But they worked tirelessly, day in, day out. Every day they grinded it to build their life from scratch all over again. My siblings and I, we didn't have a lot growing up. Our family was poor. But you know what? The lessons that my parents taught us about perseverance, about grind, about hard work, those lessons are priceless and they're invaluable, and they molded my childhood and shaped me into the person that I am today. So your resilient role models are there to give you perspective and to remind you that you too have the strength to get through your challenging times. But having resilient role models is not enough. It's not enough to be resilient. The thing about resilience is that you have to learn, earn, and build it gradually. And the only way you learn, earn, and build it is by actually going through that shit yourself. And I only understood the true meaning of resilience until I went through adversity myself. And I've gone through a lot of challenging times in life, as many of you have, but a few stand out. Like the time I went hiking, and it turned out to be one of the worst days of my life, and I cannot believe I made it through. For those who follow me on Instagram or know me personally, you know that I love to hike. I love hiking. I've been on, 100 hikes between here to Lake Louise, Kananaskis, Banff, and around the world. Here's my husband and I. We are at the top of one of the highest mountains in North Africa, okay? It's my way to escape. It's my way to fill my cup. That's what I do on my free time. But on this particular day, my friend and I decided to do Tent Ridge. Do we have any hikers in the room here? Anybody else go, okay, yay, okay. So So you guys are going to know what I'm going to be talking about here. We decided to do Tent Ridge in K Country. It's a nice mountain, big mountain, and we wanted to go during larch season because the trees are beautiful, because they're golden, and it was a really beautiful day too. This September was unusually warm, but I remember I brought a little jacket, and I brought my toque, my mitts anyway, because I knew that during shoulder season, the weather can change on a dime. So we go out there, and we scramble, so using our hands and our feet to get up to the top of the ridge, and we still had the ridge walk to do before we can come down the other side. So we get up there, and it starts to snow just a little bit. But I'm thinking, it's okay, this is expected. I got my little jacket, I got my mitts, I got my, I'm ready, I'm good to go. And the thing is, I'm an experienced hiker, so I thought that I was ready for this. And then we start hiking. 15, 20 minutes in, the snow starts to thicken a little bit. I'm thinking it's okay, it's gonna pass. And then bam, 30 minutes in, we find ourselves in whiteout conditions, full on winter blizzard. I'm talking the temperature plummeted 20 degrees, and I now had the wind whipping snow into my face, and we could not see anything. And we were not prepared, and we did not have the right gear. And the thing is, to give you some perspective, we still had about 3 to 4 hours left on that ridge before we can come down the other side because we couldn't turn around. It was way too dangerous. We had no reception on our phone, so we couldn't call anybody. And anybody who's been up on that mountain, just think about how difficult it is to walk through a blizzard outside your door. Now imagine what it's like 8,000 feet high on a mountain. I was terrified because every time we took a step forward, we would have to stop because we couldn't see in front of us. And because we're on a ridge, you slip over one side or the next, you're gonna fall and hurt yourself, or you could die. And I know that sounds morbid, but in the mountain, that is a full reality. But what was their other option? We couldn't just sit there. We'd freeze to death. I wasn't wearing the right clothes. I was frozen in fear, and I had a full-on meltdown, behind this boulder. I just started crying. I went, Kathy, you're so stupid, you're so stupid. How did you put yourself in this situation? How are you gonna make it out of here? What are you gonna do? Well, thank goodness for my friend, because I don't know where she found this spark of positivity from. But she just started to become our cheerleader, and she started to be my beacon of light. And she was like, Kathy, we're gonna make it through. We've done this. We haven't done this in this kind of storm, but we've done this before. We can do this, we can do this. I need you to take a deep breath, and I need you to focus, okay? We gotta get up, and we gotta go now. We can't stay here. We gotta get up, and we gotta move. So I'm thinking, yeah, of course, we have no choice, we gotta. But it was her encouragement in that moment that I needed, and I said, okay, let's do it. We didn't really have a plan, but we had the intention, and we were deliberate in our action at that time. So I said, let's do it, one foot in front of the other. So we got up, we did ever so slowly. I figured it was better to freeze while we were walking than freeze while not walking and moving forward. So we would take a couple steps, we would stop, we'd take a couple steps, we'd stop. Sometimes I'd be on my hands and knees crawling because the wind was too much. We would stop, we would get up, we would do it again. And then these 7 words in my mind kept going over and over and over again, and I think it was a way to keep me focused. 1 foot in front of the other Kathy, 1 foot in front of the other Kathy, 1 foot in front of the other Kathy. It was almost like I was in a meditative state, because I had to focus, and I kept saying that. Kathy, no one's gonna rescue you off this mountain, you gotta do it yourself, 1 foot in front of the other. Kathy, no one is going to save you, but you gotta do this, 1 foot in front of the other. And I kept doing that over and over and over and over again. I couldn't feel my body. I didn't even know what was up, what was down, but I kept going and I kept moving forward. What seemed like the longest 2 hours of my life, the snow started to lighten up, and then the storm passed. 5 hours later, we finally got off that damn mountain. And when I think back to that day, I'm angry. I was angry. I was like, how did you put yourself in that situation? You are so dumb, you could have died. What is wrong with you? But I had to stop being angry. I'm like, I can't go through life being angry. I need to reframe my mind around this adversity. I need to think of it differently. Maybe it's a gift. Maybe it was meant to happen. Maybe it was meant to teach me something, because we all know it's during the toughest times in your life that you learn your hardest lessons. It builds your character, and it builds your resilience. So what am I gonna learn? I learned the true meaning of resilience that day, and did I ever learn a lot of lessons? So I learned to be resilient means to realize that you are stronger than you could ever think that you are. And you don't know that until you're in that situation. When I think back to that mountain, I'm going, I didn't know I had it in me to do that. I can't believe I had it in me, but I did. To be resilient means to feel what it is that you're feeling, to grieve, to cry. You know, I had a panic attack. I had to go through that moment until I could pick myself up and move. People who are resilient don't fake, and if you are, it will catch up to you. You have to take the time to feel whatever it is that you are feeling before you can move on. Being resilient means to let go of the things that you cannot control. We couldn't control the weather that day. We couldn't control the snow. We had to accept it and then act on the things that we can control, which was to put one foot in front of the other. To be resilient means to put yourself into action. Again, you don't need to know the next steps or the plan, but you need to be deliberate in your response to the painful experience. You need to move, and we did. One foot in front of the other. We kept moving forward. To be resilient means to have a support team. I could not have done it without my friend that day, without a doubt. Because sometimes in life, the hardest things you go through, having someone by your side makes it that much easier. And to be resilient means to have a motivating mantra, and for me, it was one foot in front of the other, just to keep you focused, okay? Just to keep you focused. I use those lessons on that mountain in almost every aspect of my life. Whenever I go through a tough time, I always think about my time on the mountain. One foot in front of the other, one foot in front of the other, right? Those 7 words have helped me overcome challenging times in my TV career. I love my job. I love it so much. There's some former CTVers in here. You know I love my job. It's my dream. It's what I've always wanted to do. But it is a cutthroat, competitive industry where the stress level is here every single day. And you have to have grit, and you have to have thick skin, especially when you get messages like this. Why does Kathy talk so much? If I wanted her opinion, I would have tuned into The Social. Why can't she be more like her male co-anchor? Or this, does Kathy not realize that she's in Calgary? Tell that bitch that if she loves the Oilers so much to go back to Edmonton. I don't even like hockey very much. I have no idea what that person was thinking, but these are real emails to my inbox, never mind emails to the entire newsroom when I'm having a shitty day and someone has to point it out, right? Or this one, Kathy should go see a speech therapist. She doesn't know how to talk. Or this one, that dress she was wearing tonight is too revealing. Why does Kathy feel the need to sexualize herself to get ahead in her career? I know what dress they were talking about. My mom chose that dress. She is the classiest woman and the most conservative woman you will ever meet, okay? But this one is my favorite. Heavily pregnant women on primetime TV. Come on. Get this woman off TV. We tolerate it up to 4 months. Please. 4 months, guys. Enough 4 months? And then you guys can go hide, okay? And this person even used the word please. They were just begging for me to get off the TV because I was so offensive to them. I try not to let hate mail like this bother me, and for the most part I don't. It is hard some days, but I don't. But this one bothered me for so many reasons. As if women don't have it hard enough. When we show up as our best selves, people still judge us and scrutinize us. Now imagine showing up not as your best self, not looking sexy, not feeling great, not performing very well, and you think all these things about yourself, and then some guy named Andrew decides to send you an email and tell you exactly what you're thinking too, okay? Yes, his name is Andrew. Andrew. I'll tell you this, I just wanted to hide. I didn't want to be on air anymore. I felt so big, and those who were at WEDO last year or have seen me on TV towards the end of my pregnancy, let's just call it what it is. I was huge, okay? I was huge. I felt so bad about myself and so self-conscious. I just wanted to be pulled off air. I just didn't want to do it, you know? And then I thought, okay, one foot in front of the other. You know what? Not today. Not today, Andrew. I'm not going to let you get to me. Not today, right? I'm going to show up. I'm going to show up despite the fact that I feel terrible physically. I was achy. Everything hurt. I was going to show up even though I had negative doubts in my head. I had imposter syndrome. I questioned whether or not I could do the job. Yeah, I let this man get to me like that, right? I decided I was going to show up, so I did. I showed up here at the desk day in, day out. Well past 4 months, ladies. Well past 4 months. And I love that girl, Alicia, in there. She was just coming back from mat leave, and I was just about to leave on mat leave. How amazing is that? And I showed up here out in the field with my big belly doing crime work, well past 4 months, and I showed up on stage, okay, emceeing, moderating a panel, keynoting, well past 4 months. I showed up achy, I showed up hungry, I showed up upset, whatever. And you know, I don't know what it is about pregnancy, but like I was very forgetful during a lot of these times. I don't know if I did the best job, but I showed up anyway. And guess what? I showed up here too. This is a really special photo, and I'm glad my husband took it. Here I am in my 3rd trimester. I'm trying to wrap up one of my documentaries that took 2 years to do. It's plus 30. I'm sitting on an exercise ball because my legs would go numb sitting on a chair. And I felt very uncomfortable. And there were many moments I just didn't want to finish this project because I just was having a tough time, and I wanted to just coast through to the end of my pregnancy up until my mat leave, right? But I thought, no, I got to do this. One foot in front of the other. I got to do this. I have people counting on me. This project means a lot to me. And I just so badly wanted to prove Andrew wrong. So I did. I stuck it out to the very end. This was like a month out when I finished it, when it aired, before I went on maternity leave. And it was down to the wire. I remember going to my editors, I'm like, look, we don't have time. Like, I'm not saying that we're gonna miss our deadline and it's not gonna go in air. Like, I'm gonna give birth. So like, we need to finish this project. You have to work with me. That's what we're talking about here. And I'm so glad I stuck it through to the very end, because guess what? This documentary, the longest and the hardest documentary I'd ever done, won me the biggest award of my television career. The Edward R. Murrow. Yeah. It's the biggest award, one of the biggest awards you can win as a TV journalist. I'm very proud of that moment because of what that meant to me. Because being resilient is about showing up even when you don't feel like it. That's what it's about. It's about showing up. And not just for me, but for every other woman who was made to feel bad about herself because of somebody else's judgment about her. I showed up so hard and so consistently that other media picked up my story, which I was incredibly shocked about, but then I was happy because I went, yes, these are the things that people should be talking about. These are the issues we should be talking about. But you know what? I'm not the only one showing up when I don't feel like it. I'm not special. What's your name? Erin, do you show up when you don't feel like it? Say yes. 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 Do you show up when you don't feel like it? Say yes. Ladies, do you show up when you feel scared? Say yes. Yes. Do we show up if we doubt ourselves? Say yes. Yes. Do we show up when we feel like we're a failure? Yes. Do we? I sure as hell do we? Yeah, we do. I see you. I am each and every single one of you. I felt scared. I've had doubts. I felt like a failure, but I keep going one foot in front of the other, especially when things like this happen.
With Chris App and Kathy Lee.
Good evening, and thank you for joining us.
Mentioned the possibility of a mouth grid, sorry, that's a mouthful.
Logan Kidd grew up wanting to, so he is with the, you know what, that's all we have for the time we have tonight, everyone. Thanks so much for watching. Have a good night.
Who let that girl on TV? Who let that girl on TV? I don't know. But I felt like I needed to show you guys that because I am not perfect. And my job has taught me how to be resilient every single day. Because when mistakes like that happen, I need to think fast and I need to figure out how to recover in the best way I know how. And as you can see, sometimes it's not as graceful. That was horrible. I think the teleprompter crapped out of me, and I'm like, oh man, just say goodnight, Kathy. We're done. We're done. Tomorrow's a new day, right? But what I've learned is it's the little challenges every day that we are forced to have to overcome. All those little ones on a daily basis, those count big time to building your resilience, right? Because resilience is like a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets, and then you're able to apply that strength to the next big challenge that might come your way. Like the time I wanted to feature this family in one of my documentaries, but they had moved to Houston before I can get that interview. And I'm talking this was a must get because I had written the entire documentary around this family. So I went to my boss and I said, hey, do you think we can fly me down to Houston so I can get this? They only had it in the budget to fly 2 people, and at the time I was not shooting my own stories yet, so they sent the shooter instead. And he, of course, very talented, but had no idea what story I was doing, what project I was working on. He didn't have a stake in it. And he even came up to me and said, I don't know, Kathy, I feel really nervous about this. I don't think I can do this interview justice. And I'm going, oh my God, okay, one foot in front of the other, okay, how do we get by this? I'm disheartened, I'm frustrated, I'm like all my sweat and tears, I've been working on this for 3 years, it has to go the way that I want it to go. So you know what I did? The day before this videographer left and flew to Houston, I booked a ticket, met him at the airport, said, don't ask me any questions. We went to the person's house, we interviewed them, I flew back, and I went back to work. That's what I did, and I got it done. Because you know what? I had to do what I had to do. There was no way that after 3 years of all my hard work, I was not going to see this project through to the end the way that I wanted to see it. And sometimes you just gotta do what you gotta do. Because being resilient is about being flexible and pivoting and finding a way. So if one route doesn't work, then you find a different route. It's not about giving up if there's an obstacle in the way. It's about doubling down and being relentless in your pursuit. And I've had to be relentless in my pursuit to stand out in the TV world. Early on in my career, one of the biggest challenges that I have had to overcome was to be taken seriously. A senior person once told me that, oh, you don't need to use your brain to get interviews or what you need to do to be a journalist. You can just bat your pretty little eyelashes, you'll get what you want, which completely undermined my intelligence. I had someone else come to me, a colleague, say, oh, you'll be successful in this interview, Kathy. You know why? You're Asian. Newsrooms have to hire diversity, so you're just gonna check that diversity box, you'll be fine. Okay, that's racist. When you're a rookie and you hear these things, it's very tough to not lose your confidence. It's really tough to not doubt yourself, and I did. I doubted myself. I went, do I have what it takes? Am I cut out for this industry? But I loved journalism. I loved storytelling, and if anyone has ever watched my documentary in here, you will know it is everything to me. To be able to tell other people's stories is my life, it's my passion. I had no choice, this was my dream. So what am I supposed to do? I found a way. Every obstacle that came my way, I found a way. Many of you might not believe this, but I had anxiety speaking in front of people and on TV when I first started out, which is really interesting that I chose this career because you kind of need that skill in order to succeed, but I did. I just wasn't like a lot of my other colleagues. Here, I'll show you what I mean here.
Knights of Columbus have hosted the snowmobile rally 4 times in the Sandy Beach area. However, due to upcoming lot changes on the property, they are planning to relocate for next year.
So what you guys don't see is it took me 50 practices, 50 tries, just to be able to say those words on television, okay? I was just not natural like a lot of my colleagues. So you know what I did? After work, every day, I would practice. I would write scripts, I would perform them in front of a mirror. I would do it in front of, I don't know, I would record it, I would do whatever it took. I studied other people. And how they were able to communicate. I worked hard and I got through it. When I first started producing documentaries, I didn't know how to do it. I had no clue how to start, but I love the long format storytelling, right? I loved it, so then I found a way. I went and I studied the best works from the documentarians that I completely respect, like Ken Burns or Lisa Ling, minute by minute, second by second. I would go through their documentaries and I would learn how they would storytell. I would learn how they would format it. And then I paid my way to a journalism conference in the United States and I learned from the best. I took that knowledge, I came back to Calgary, I applied it into my first documentary. I thought it was amazing at the time. Now when I look back, it was okay. But I didn't stop there. I then took everything that I learned, all those mistakes, I applied it to the next documentary, and that got better. Then I did it to the next one, and that one improved. And then the next one. And I thought that was the best work I've ever done because I won my first award. But it wasn't, because it was the one after that won me my international award. So I can't wait for the next documentary that I'm going to do, because it is going to be bigger and it is going to be better. If my colleagues worked 8 hours, I'd work 12 hours. If I wasn't the best speaker, the best editor, the best shooter, the best reporter in the room, I was going to do whatever it took to make sure that I was the best and I was going to rise to the occasion. And through all that, there were tears, there were doubts, there were failures, there were mistakes. But you know what? The struggle was worth it, and here's why. I then eventually became the reporter and the journalist that I knew I always was, but the difference this time was that other people realized it now too. And I earned a seat at the table, not because I batted my pretty little eyelashes or because I checked a token diversity hire box, but because I earned my position at the table and I deserved to be there, and my work spoke for itself, right? Yeah, because being resilient means finding a solution. It's finding a way, right? No matter what, especially when times get tough, especially when it feels impossible. The last 11 months were some of the hardest months I have ever had to go through, and they tested me like you wouldn't believe. And there were many moments in the last 11 months that I felt like things were impossible. I had my son Riker about a year ago. He's the love of my life. But just on the record, just so you know, I gained 80 pounds. Okay, where are the receipts? Come on, there we go. I gained 80 pounds. And for those who saw me at WEDO last year, you will know how big I was. I gained 80 pounds in my pregnancy. And it wasn't the weight gain, like the actual physical, like I didn't care about that. But it was the weight of my baby and everything else that did a lot of damage to my body, and I would find out the extent of what that damage would be. So yes, a few weeks after I had Riker, I felt like something was wrong with my body. And because I've always been athletic, because I'm a hiker and I've always moved my body, I was very attuned to it, and I knew when something was off. And I knew something was off. Like inside my stomach, there was a lot of pain. And like it wasn't the baby weight, it was something else. And I would tell people about this. I'm like, is this normal? Is this normal? But everyone would say to me, oh, Kathy, don't worry about it. You know, this is just postpartum. Like, you don't worry, you'll bounce back. Give yourself some grace, you know? Okay, yeah, I gotta give myself some grace. But here's the thing. I couldn't do simple functional movements. Like the simple functional movements that you need to do just to exist. I couldn't walk. Like this was my walk, right? This was how I walked. I couldn't get on the floor and off the floor without it being some dramatic, you know, pain and whole drama thing. I couldn't sit down and hold my baby in my lap like a normal person and breastfeed him because my stomach distended so far out. I looked like I was 6 months pregnant still, and there was no other baby in there, and it was painful. And the worst part was, whenever I got up out of bed, I felt like my intestines were coming out of my abdominal cavity, like my guts were spilling out of me. So that every time I got up out of bed, I would have to, and I'm going to demonstrate this to you. I'd have to hold it all in, lift myself up, and just hold my stomach so I can get out. And I'm going, this is not normal. So then I told my girlfriends about that, and they're like, yeah, you know what, Kathy, that doesn't seem normal. You should probably go and see a doctor about that. And I'm like, yeah, no, I know. 12 weeks in, after I had my baby, I'm still not better. I still feel like my guts were coming out of me. I still, like my physical health was not good. I still could not function. So I went to the doctor, we got an ultrasound, and it turns out I had a gap in my stomach 4.5 fingers wide and 2 knuckles deep. I could actually take my entire hand and put it inside my stomach, which explained why it felt like my guts were coming out of me. I had what's called diastasis recti. I'd never heard of that. Who's heard of that before? A few women in this room, okay, yeah. So what happens when you're pregnant is there's this tissue that comes down the middle of your stomach and it expands. It's what holds your six-pack muscles together. It expands to make room for the baby because, you know, your body is very smart. For most women, that gap closes. For some women, it doesn't. What made my case so severe was the severity of my gap, how wide it was and how deep it was. So I was told, well, you know what, you could get surgery to sew up your six-pack muscles, sew up that gap. And I went, are you kidding me right now? I just had 7 layers of my stomach cut open during an emergency C-section. My wound was still fresh. I did not need my stomach cut open again. I was devastated. I had suffered so much already going through infertility challenges just to have my son. I had a very tough pregnancy followed by a traumatic birth, and now I need to get my stomach sewn. I was at the end of my rope. I had been trying to keep it together since the beginning of this baby journey, all the while trying to act like everything is normal and do my career like everything is okay and getting all the hate mail from people like Andrew. And at that point, I couldn't take it anymore. I'm going, universe, oh my God, fuck. Throw me a bone. I'm done. I don't want to learn any more lessons, okay? Can you cut me some slack? Let me just sit down and hold my baby and cuddle and bond with him, please. That's all I wanted. That's all I wanted. I'm so done. I was so done. I was so frustrated. I was so angry. And I was so sad. I was so sad because I would see pictures of other women with their newborns and I couldn't do that. All I wanted was to sit on the couch and hold my baby in my lap and I couldn't do that. All I wanted to do was to push him in a stroller, go outside like normal people, and I just couldn't do that. And I was so worried that I wouldn't be able to also do the thing that I love, which was go hiking. I fell into a dark hole. And as resilient as I know I am, I knew I wasn't going to pull myself out of this mess fast. It was a tough time. It was so tough for me. For the first time in my life, I retreated. I got off social media. I disconnected from everyone. I even canceled speaking engagements that I had planned a month or two after I had Riker. Yeah, because I thought I was going to be like Heidi Klum and I was going to bounce back and walk the Victoria's Secret's runway at 3 weeks postpartum. That's what I thought mine was going to be, and it was not that at all, okay? And I retreated to my room and I stayed there for a significant amount of time. I only left to feed Riker standing up. Thank goodness, and I'm so grateful for my husband. He was able to stay home and take care of us. He took a medical leave for 4 months to take care of us because I physically could not do it and I mentally could not do it. Here's what I learned in your moments of despair. The harsh reality is the world continues to move on with or without you. So you have a choice. You either pull yourself out of that hole or you dig an even deeper hole. And at that time I went, I have to pull myself out of this hole. I have to do it. I have to do it for my son, right? I have to do it for me. I have to be deliberate in response to my pain right now. So I did. I decided to take action. I didn't know what the plan was, but I decided to take action. I said, Kathy, you have to get out of this bed. So I said to myself, if all you do today is get out of bed and take a shower, that's a win. So I did. I got out of bed and I took a shower. The next day I said, if all you do is get out of bed, take a shower, and make your bed, that's a win. So I did that. Then the next day I said, if all you do is get out of bed, take a shower, do your bed, and make some food, that's a win. And so I did. And so every day, so slowly I did. I'm not meaning to cry, you guys, but it just sucked really bad during this time. So I did. And I slowly started to come back to life. And I slowly started to feel the levity in me. And that's when the real work began. And that's when I met this woman, Becky Choi. I was Googling her in the middle of the night one time because I was so desperate for help. She's a diastasis recti coach and a woman who is amazing, who supports other women during postpartum. And I connected with her, and she said, you know what, Kathy, the research shows that you don't have to get surgery. It's not the only option. You can rehabilitate your gap together, and I will help you. But she said, it's going to take everything that you got, all the commitment, all the time that you have, everything that you got, it's going to take you to be able to heal yourself. Are you in? And I said, I am so desperate. Of course I'm in. I have to be in. I have to do this. I have to do this for me. I have to do this for my son. And then he became my why. Because being resilient is finding your why. Those are the people who keep you going when times seem impossible. He became my why. And this was day one. Oh, look at him. So this is me all bundled up on day one of my journey. My husband and my son are watching me as I bundled up to go out the door. It was minus 35. I was going on one of my first of many, many, many walks to come. And when I left and went outside the door, I may as well have been on Tent Ridge, not because it was so freaking cold, but because I was winded after a minute. I struggled. There's a gentle slope I have to go up, and when I say gentle, it's pretty much flat, that I had to go up to get to my house. And I was in so much pain. My stomach hurt, my back hurt. I couldn't stand up straight. My legs felt like they were bricks, okay? I literally had to say 1 foot in front of the other, 1 foot in front of the other. You can do this, Kathy. You can do this. And I did. And all that mattered was I kept moving forward. I only went for like 5-10 minutes, but all that mattered was I kept moving forward. I walked through rain, snowstorms, heat, smoke, like whatever it was, I walked every single day for 8 months. But there were times I wanted to give up. There were times I didn't want to do it. There were times I didn't want to do my rehab exercises. There were times I didn't want to stick to my nutrition plan, do my strength training, all that kind of stuff. There were times that I doubted the process and that it wasn't going to work. You know, there were times I felt guilty that I was spending so much time fixing my body and I wasn't spending enough time with my son. But then I had to remind myself that being resilient is being selfish and putting yourself first and not feeling guilty about it, because I said, if you want to be the best mom for Riker, then you have to be the best for yourself. So don't feel guilty about it. And so I didn't. And then on May 14th, I was finally able to do this. I was finally able to sit on the couch with my son in my lap and read him a book. My husband took this because he knows how hard I worked to get to this point. But I wasn't fully healed yet. This was just a start. This bonding time with him kept me motivated. It kept me so motivated. I kept going on my journey. A month after this photo was taken, I was going on 5-minute jogs. 2 months after that, I was doing sprints. By the middle of summer, I was lifting weights heavier than I have ever lifted in my life. And by the fall, I had completely healed the gap in my stomach. My son and I were able to play together. I can get on the floor with him. I can lift him over my head. I can take him in and out of the car seat. I can go for a stroll. I can go on an adventure. Just him and I. I could be the mom I've always wanted to be because now I was completely present. And I also did this. I found myself back on a mountain, something that did not seem possible. I gained the confidence as well. I got out with friends. I'm on the WEDO stage, which at the beginning of this year did not seem possible to me, okay? Because being resilient here in this photo, when I look at it, is about doing the things that you love and finding balance, because you need that. You need that in your life in order to overcome the challenges. I thought I was a resilient and strong person before these last 11 months. But now that I've gone through all this, I realize that I am actually even stronger physically and mentally than I've ever been before, and I'm even more resilient. And now I can handle any other challenges that will come my way, because we all know the greater you are, the farther you go, the bigger the adversity that's going to come your way, so you got to be prepared for it, right? And what I've learned is resilience, right? The things you overcome at work and in your career and in your business and the things you overcome in your personal life go hand in hand. One does not exist without the other. The lessons you learn in one, you can apply in the other. The resilience that you build in one, you can apply and be resilient in the other. So now I know I am this elastic band here, okay? I am. But I couldn't have been this elastic band if I weren't deliberate, right? Weren't deliberate in my response to my pain. I could not have overcome that adversity without my resilient role models, knowing that I'm tougher than I've ever known, giving myself time to grieve, letting go of the things that I cannot control, having an action plan, having a support team, having a motivating mantra, showing up even when I don't feel like it, pivoting and being flexible, being resourceful and finding a way, knowing my why to keep me motivated, being selfish and not feeling guilty about it, and finding my balance. So to all the resilient women and men in this room, I challenge you to reflect on how you've been able to overcome the challenges in your life, because you will learn a great deal about yourself. And I also challenge you to be deliberate in your response to your pain, in hopes that next time you go through the next challenging thing, that you might be able to go through it with a little bit more ease. But if you find that the struggle is a little bit more than you planned for or can get through, I want you to think about this. Think about your adversity as something that's happening for you, not to you. I know that that sounds cliche, but after what I've been through, I truthfully believe in that. The lessons you're going to learn from your adversity are going to help you 100-fold later on. And when you are ready to be deliberate in your response to your painful experience, remember to take it a day at a time, one foot in front of the other. Thank you.